Hey guys, welcome back. We are talking about ideal conditions today.
Really excited about this one. When you start to understand your ideal conditions, you start to understand how you can start to shape your environment to make it easier to live in your contributions, to live in that gift and to be that gift on a more consistent basis. Mm-hmm. Been really fruitful stuff for me in my life. Erin,
Same.
You too?
Same.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every day I have at least a couple ideal conditions under my belt. And it has shaped the way that I live. It shaped our house.
Reduces stress. Increases peace.
Also increases honesty in relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the thing that kind of undergirds this entire theme.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it.
Cool. So let's name some of those ideal conditions and identify some of those lies that get in the way. We'll see you in there.
Hi, guys.
Hey, little Forrest Gump wave there. How are you guys doing? Welcome back to the Catholic Coaching Podcast. Matt Ingold here.
Erin, I was just thinking about the Forrest Gump wave. Sorry.
He's got a couple, right? He's got the...
Oh, this one.
He's got that's from the boat, right?
All right, yeah.
And this is with the towel, in the locker room. One of those.
I don't remember that one.
Guys. A little more of a flip.
Yes. Okay. I'm Erin. I'm Erin Ingold. Yeah, sorry, I got distracted.
Yeah. We're the founders of Metanoia Catholic here, your host for the Catholic Coaching Podcast, where we're helping people to discover and live God's amazing plan for their life. And we're in the midst of a series here exploring unique design. So we've got 5 points of awareness in unique design. We've gone through nearly all of them at this point, except one, which is ideal conditions. We're going to be focusing on that today. You guys have ideal environments, ideal conditions where it's easiest for you to do the things that you do well.
Yes.
Keeps you motivated. Avoid your triggers, right? It's just your inflow in these places. When we can start to name and claim these things, we can start to consciously create them.
Yes.
And it's just easier to live at that point. When we don't know these things, we can kind of just
live in resentment, but also just react to life and just be like, I can't help it. Just,
and we can miss out on opportunities to reduce some friction in our lives that is within our authority to be able to get rid of. So I'm really excited about this point of awareness. One of my favorites. We picked it because, guys, we realize even in our marriage, we have different ideal conditions for how we connect, how we work, how we communicate with one another, how we get things done, how we take action. And when we can start to understand those things, and not only ourselves, but the other person, it actually creates an opportunity for greater partnership and greater collaboration and relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to kind of make a little bit of a distinction. Notice we're using the words ideal conditions. And we don't on purpose use really long words for no reason. But this is different and distinct from necessary conditions.
Okay.
Instead, ideal conditions are preferred, right? And exactly what you just said, when these are met in our lives, we are allowed to live in our contributions and our gifts more and with greater ease. But they aren't necessary, to live, And I think I always want to make that distinction out of the gate, because people can read through their ideal conditions and turn to their partner or whoever they're working with and are like, these are my ideal conditions and you need to meet them, and almost make it like an ultimatum.
Because I can't do anything until these needs are met. And it's just kind of that's not a very empowering place to be.
It's very victim-y, actually. It's you are the victim now. You're not even just victimizing somebody else by putting an ultimatum on them, but you are actually allowing yourself to be a victim to these, these environments and these circumstances that you have in your life.
But it's a beautiful thing when you can know these things, because you can make requests of other people to partner with you to create some of these things. And the incentive is, hey, if you want to get the best of me, and presuming that people do, these are the things that make it easiest for me to show up and do what I do best, right? And the same way, I'm sure you have some conditions that make it easiest for you to show up and do what you do best. I want to know those things as well.
Yes.
Let's really partner here so that we can show up in our contributions and really create something new and fruitful in our relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. So ideal conditions could be touching on a lot of different things. Could be the workplace culture, could be the management style under which you operate best, relationships that you have, how you interact with a team, the physical environment of your home as well, like how things are set up. I know I have a very particular way that I like the kitchen set up and things put away in certain drawers. And whenever we have guests that show up and with the best of intentions, put things away, trying to be helpful. And next thing you know, I was like, where is the spatula? Doesn't go here, right? We start to just we have some of those ideal conditions in our home. Even the media that you consume, right? This is an important thing to consider here as well. What's the impact that some of the media is having on you as you consume it? Even where you live, geography, what climate you live in, all of these things kind of are preferences that allow you to show up easiest.
An example for me is living in Ave Maria, but an ideal condition for me is being able to drive my golf cart, not my car, to the grocery store. And it's just like, it feels like freedom. I can live in my gifts more. I can like wave to people, outside of the golf cart, but also just like giving that sense. I don't know. So that is an ideal condition for me. I'm glad that you brought up where you live.
Well, one of the things that even drew us down here was we both recognized that we really enjoy being outside. And so when we were living in upstate New York, which tends to have some pretty long winters, there just wasn't necessarily that outside time unless you really wanted to embrace some of the winter sports and activities, which Aaron and I, we just weren't really interested in. We enjoyed being outside, going on jogs, going on bike rides a lot more. And so this really fit our ideal conditions a little bit better down here.
Another ideal condition for me is collaborating with people who have those focus and executing strengths.
Yes.
So somebody on my team, Abby, she brings a lot of focus to an area where I'm like, ideating all the time and I have all this brainstorm and like want to create all these things, but she'll bring it back. And so I know that an ideal condition for me is to work with somebody like that and to request that from them.
Yeah, or even be paired up with a finisher. I mean, that was why that was why we hired Hannah, is because we just needed somebody with those executor finisher talents. And Aaron had all these ideas, and I couldn't keep up with them myself, and so we needed somebody more on the production side of things. I mean, I know for me, I know something's very important for me to be able to show up in my gifts is to have dependable people that I know are going to be that are going to deliver on what they say they're going to do. And so I know that I'm very strong in my ability to kind of conceptualize the way things need to be working and kind of think of different systems and things like that. And if I am stuck in the weeds a whole bunch of times, I'm out of my kind of strategic thinking gifts that I have. And so being able to delegate and trust that what I delegate is going to get done is huge for me, because then I'm not like in my strategic place, but wondering if this is getting done or this is happening. It's just like, no, I gave it to that person. They're taking care of it. And it frees me up to just focus in my areas of gift.
But you know what's so crazy about that? Even though it is with other people and you can't control other people, you as the boss can hire people who you trust.
Yes, that have that delegate. Natural inclination, that enjoy that actually find like crossing the finish line and just checking the boxes. They enjoy that piece of it. And so, you match up task and talent. You never work a day in your life. Cool. And I remember Father Bill Hansen saying, you match up task and talent, you become a saint. And it's like, wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow. That was, Father Bill Hansen was one of these priests that took Gallup Strengths Finders and deployed it as parish and saw amazing fruits in it. We got a whole podcast episode. I think it's called Living Your Strengths in Your Church or something like that.
I think it's episode it's around episode 97.
It was right in May of 2022 that it came out. Okay.
Well, let's move on. Yeah. Why is knowing, what are the pain points, right?
Of not knowing it.
Of not knowing.
Okay.
This your ideal conditions.
Yeah. So you can actually either create or just kind of surrender to a very trigger-rich environment.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, say
surrender.
Yeah, you just you just acquiesce that I'm just stuck in this trigger-rich environment. And trigger-rich environments, remember our podcast on triggers, that's what inclines us into fear, and fear pulls us out of our contributions and puts us in our weaknesses or overuse patterns. And so we just kind of abdicate any sort of responsibility to cultivate and care for the garden in which we live. And part of that is reducing some of those triggers. What else?
You feel the unnecessary pain of avoid. Well, you just said that. Okay. You also create environments that actually create more stress, which is basically the same thing that you just said.
Yeah.
And then you contribute to other people's trigger conditions.
Right.
How?
Well, when you are in your trigger environments, those are the things, remember, they kind of cause you to react in fear. And when you're reacting in fear and you're in overuse, now you are actually interacting with people around you from a place of fear, which is going to ignite a lot of their triggers here as well. And so it's just like this ripple effect. Right. And here's the thing. What we're saying is there, you can't completely bubble wrap your world. That's not the goal here. But there are some things that you can do within your control that are not manipulative of other people.
And we'll get into that.
That can actually reduce some of the pain.
So some benefits for the knowing this point of awareness is you create a space that funnels you towards, like we were saying, towards your contributions, towards your natural gifting. You enjoy more peace and fewer distractions. And I also would say if it's in relationships, but really even just working relationships, everything, let's be honest, everything is founded in relationship. I think it's just you're more honest in your relationships.
Tell me more.
So if somebody asked me, if let's just say my job required me to do something that's outside of my ideal condition. Okay. I could say, yes, I will do that. And these will be the this will be the results of that. It will take a little bit longer for me because I'm like, it's not really allowing me to live in my contributions, but I'm not saying I'm blaming you for that. It will take a little bit longer and it will kind of drain me a little bit. And I know that's not your problem either, but just to know I can be honest and say that. And just, it will probably take double the amount of time. Like if I'm going to be totally honest. Now, if I had a finisher with me, if I had somebody else who was coming in and bringing that to completion, okay, yeah, it would probably be the same amount. And I'm still willing to do that. Or if it's just like, hey, I just really would love it if you could give me some space to go pray in the chapel. Let's just say one of your ideal conditions are, quiet. Hey, spouse of mine, Matt, can you give me time at this time of day to go and pray in the chapel? So it's honesty and it causes you to be vulnerable.
Yes. Okay.
And then you just get more done.
Yeah.
When you actually know your ideal conditions, but also are willing to request them. Let's get into the strategies, the enemy strategies that keep us from even looking at these ideal conditions. And the strategies are always lies, by the way.
Yeah, these lies have come up quite a bit. We've seen them in, the different people that we have coached, different Catholics that we have coached. And again, when we don't look at these things, it can kind of lead down a path of resentment. And again, all those negative symptoms that we talked about earlier here. So let's dive into these. Aaron, what's the first enemy strategy that keeps us from looking at these ideal and claiming these ideal conditions?
Yeah, I think this is from, I'm a recovering people pleaser, or feeling somebody who might feel like a burden if I ask for it. So I think a lie that kind of sounds like this. If I request these ideal conditions from my loved ones, from my coworkers, whatever, I will seem selfish. If I request this, I will seem selfish. That thought will lead to fear, right? Because and the interesting thing is that it actually leads to you becoming more self-focused because now you're focused on other people's perception of you. And so it actually creates the very thing that you're trying not to be, which you're trying not to be selfish, but then you're focusing on yourself and you're focusing on other people's perceptions of you.
And then you try to manipulate other people's perceptions of you.
And then you might try to do that too. Yes.
Which triggers their
right
trigger conditions.
Right.
Boom.
So that's like the crazy thing. So the funny thing about this thought is it actually creates the very thing that you're trying not to do. So when we request something from others, we risk disappointment. Yes, we risk disappointment. We risk them saying no. We risk, people having perceptions of us and judgments of us. We risk all of those things. And you have to ask yourself, is it worth that risk to actually not be self-focused anymore? I notice that when I am open and I request ideal conditions from somebody, right? Where it's just like, hey, can you be the finisher that comes and helps me? If I say that out loud, guess what I'm not doing? I'm not seething over here in resentment and focusing on myself over here, and then just being like, they should know to come and help me or whatever. So I'm actually focused on them, and then I ask them, I'm detached from the outcomes, and then I can just move on, whether they say yes or no. So it's like, it actually makes you do more. Like you were saying, the benefit is just you do more.
Right. You can get more done, and you get more done together as a team. And one of the things, the points that you've got here also, Erin, is you give other people the opportunity to really love you well. So that's the thing. There's often a presumption that I'm putting a burden on other people when I'm asking for this.
Yeah.
And maybe it is, but maybe it's a burden that they desire to actually shoulder. Maybe they don't even see it as a burden. Maybe they just see it as, yes, it's a little bit of a sacrifice. Burden by definition is like, it's more than I can carry myself. But maybe it's just like a little bit of a help that you're asking for. And it's not imposing anything on the person. It's requesting it, which is the important thing here. And then they have the freedom to say yes. And maybe that person, spouses, maybe you can identify this. You really enjoy it when your spouse asks you for something, or where your kids ask you for something that is not a burden, but it actually is something that you do well. And it's an opportunity to really be a gift to them and to love them. And like, what's wrong with that?
And when we don't request things from people out of fear, we actually place more of a burden on ourselves.
Sure.
So it's not even like you're avoiding placing a burden on somebody. You will be placing a burden on somebody no matter what.
Yeah. And folks, there will be times. Like there is times when like Erin is like, hey, Matt, I would really just like some quiet time here, or I really need some time to focus on this. And so like, I can't really be watching Avila right now in this moment. And then I have to be like, okay, well, I had other stuff that I was planning on doing during this time. And so it is like, we got to figure it. And then it's like, now it's like, how do we figure this out together? At least this is like a conversation where it's like, how do we both put our desires on the table, and we have our own vision of what winning looks like. And like, how can we come up with a common desire that's there? But if you don't make those requests, you can kind of presume that you're either on the same page, or that the person is really, you're like, you guys are in different directions, and there just really is an opportunity to collaborate.
Yep. Hence the honesty,
yes.
Right? The honesty.
Yep. Love it.
So a couple of counter strategies to this is just to remember that being afraid that you're going to seem selfish to people is actually a self-protective thought, which actually then leads you to being more selfish because you're focusing on yourself.
Yeah.
I just think that's a funny way that like the enemy really kind of messes with our minds. We're like, we have this intention to not be selfish, but no, we are. Also to think, I love this thought, and this actually really helps me move from that people-pleasing place and like that fear of like being a burden for others. But it's other people's opinions of me are none of my business. It's just, I love that. It's just kind of like, they really aren't any of my business. And also people will have perceptions of me. They will have judgments of me. And that's okay, because we all have judgments of everyone. Like, it's actually okay that they are allowed to have their own judgments. Yeah.
Another thought that's been helpful for me is it's okay to invite people to grow.
Yes.
It's okay to invite people to stretch a little bit here. Like the marital relationship is really there, and it's a unique relationship that's there to draw out the lack of charity, or expose those areas that are lacking in charity in the other person, so that we might see those things, and for the good of our spouse, desire to have the Lord perfect those things and heal those parts of us that are lacking in charity. And the same thing with a team. Like when you are with a team, it's not the same as a marriage, yet there's some similarities in that the Lord has put you in these relationships with a common mission together for a reason. And part of the reason is to support one another, but it's also to perfect one another. And we see this in that beautiful Galatians 6, bear one another's burdens patiently out of love for one another. And this is a way that even how we can start to draw or expose some of those areas where people may be invited to grow more charity. And that's okay.
I also like this question because I think this might break your brain a little bit if you're a people pleaser, but bear with me. Just give it some space. Give this question some space. How might my request actually be loving to the other person?
I like that.
How might my request actually be loving to the other person? Is it allowing them to live in some of their gifts? Because here's the thing. People who do things for people all the time, other people want to love on you. I'm sorry. Like, they just do, you know? And so give them that opportunity to love on you a little bit. And, you know, if they say no, too, now it's not the right time for them. I don't know. You know,
let them know. Let them know how you'd like to be loved, too.
Yes.
Cool.
Exactly.
All right. Enemy strategy, too.
Ready
to go?
Okay, yes. Here's the lie. I'll be okay without these ideal conditions. This is just kind of like, it's not important. Like, I'll be fine without. And the truth is, you will. You will be fine. You will be just okay. But you also won't be thriving. You won't be living in your contributions more. You won't be contributing to other people. You won't be growing. And I'm going to take I don't know if this is a Tony Robbins quote, but I can say this, that I've heard him say this. And it's, if you're not growing, you're dying. You know, I don't know. Maybe you won't be okay. I don't know. But you might just be okay.
Well,
and that's it.
Yeah, and here's where I think this one goes wrong. It sounds really nice, and it sounds like very kind of sacrificial love, right? And you certainly can. I think there's a way of being able to deliver these same words from a place of awareness and still seeing that there's something that you desire and you are not receiving it. And you're just kind of letting that ride, and you're holding space for that, and you're not dismissing it. I think there's a way of doing that, but commonly what we see is this is a way for somebody to kind of manage their disappointment at not seeing this or not having an unmet desire, and it can be somewhat dismissive of the desire that's there. And when we dismiss our desires, folks, it doesn't work out well because they don't go away.
Yeah.
And then that starts to build resentment, not just towards other people around you, but towards yourself as well. Yeah. So I'd say like this statement could be okay under the conditions that you are honestly looking at this desire that's being unmet, these ideal conditions that you can claim, and just say, hey, right now I'm not receiving these things, and I still get to choose how I'm going to respond to not receiving them right now.
Yep.
But don't dismiss them, folks.
Yeah, because if you dismiss them, you will dismiss others.
Absolutely.
Ideal conditions as well.
Yep.
Or you'll just be like, those aren't important.
Get over it, kind of like suck it up.
As being a mother to somebody who is melancholic, and I know that she needs more sleep. I know that she needs more like quiet time, alone time, even creative time.
Physical touch.
I know her ideal conditions, and believe me, I want to give it to her. I want her to be able to do that so she can thrive in these moments. But if I were to be dismissive of my own and just be like, oh, get over it, you know, whatever, like, I'm going to be doing that to her as well, my daughter.
This is one of the joys that I had teaching kindergartens how to play soccer. From a man who, like, the last time I played soccer, I think I was in kindergarten. But anyways, I'm out there and like I was looking at these kids through, they have all different, some of these guys kids were really driven. Some of them were just picking dandelions. And it was really, and one of the things I've noticed about Avila is that one of her ways that her ideal conditions is she needs time to warm up to something new. And she's not one to be very tenacious and dive right in. She really kind of is
cautious.
There's caution that's there. She kind of eases her way into that. And so knowing this, it's changed even the approach that I've had to take in teaching her how to ride without her training wheels. So it's like when I was a kid, my training wheels came off and they never went back on. It's not necessarily the approach that's working that's a good fit for her. And so that's like, that's been a bit of a dying to self.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, this is the way to do it. It's like, no, this, I'm learning how to like create that ideal learning environment for my daughter.
Yep.
But it's taken a lot of the drama and the judgment and you should, and like all of a sudden, and it's like, well, she's not doing it. I guess I'm a crappy parent. Then it's like all that crap and drama that's unnecessary, just by understanding her ideal conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her triggers.
And triggers.
Yes, that is equally as helpful to know her triggers too. All right. So the counter strategy to this is obviously come find out your, ideal conditions. You can do that in the academy. In fact, we have a mini course that you'll be able to walk through and identify these on your own. So you don't even need a coach yet.
Yeah. One of the things that we've realized is that we want to make it easier to get wins in the academy. And so just having a nice, we get started kind of path that's there that helps you get some quick wins in your unique design. That's available to you. So sign up, get the 7-day free trial in Academy Plus, and you get access to that mini course that walks you through some of these ideal conditions based on your temperament.
Yeah.
So get some good insights there.
That's right. So you can join that. Also to consider which ideal conditions. So when you come and join the academy and you learn your ideal conditions, consider which ones actually are so direct for you that actually directly allow you to live in your contributions.
What does that mean?
So certain ideal conditions are just nice to have, and then there's some that's like, I really feel like I need this in order for me to live in my giftings, live in my contributions, in order for me to really contribute. Like, I think this one feels very mandatory,
Okay.
And so to identify which ones those are, I think that's helpful to know, because we can look at the whole list and it's like, yeah, it'd be great to have all of these. There's some that are great to have, and then some that hold a little bit more weight. Yeah.
One of the things I could throw in here, when I started to acknowledge the ideal condition that I needed to have some quiet time to really just think clearly. One of the things that resulted, one of the habit changes that resulted from that is there were certain podcasts that I just stopped listening to. And I realized that I had a limited capacity in terms of what I could really process. I'm not one of these high input people that can just take in tons and tons and tons of information without ever really feeling saturated. That's not me. Some people are like that, not me. And so in order for me to really have my strategic gifting operating at peak performance, I couldn't be wasting my brain calories on things that weren't really significant. And so I just started to choose. And there might be some times where I go back to those podcasts for recreation, and so just kind of fun. But for the most part, I've created a lot more quiet in my life, or even some white noise. I use the lo-fi on my Hallow app. I love the Pints lo-fi on Hallow. So again, that's another example.
Yep. So those are a couple counter strategies here. You can also finally ask yourself, what is my choice here? So like we said, yes, you will be fine. You won't die without these ideal conditions, but you also won't thrive without these ideal conditions. So you have to be able to choose which one you want to choose moving forward. We're not going to judge you. There's maybe certain areas that you're like, I don't really want to grow over here. That's totally fine. But maybe there's another area that you're like, I really would love to contribute over here. And that's your choice. And so I'd actually like to get into the third lie here, because then we'll get into a little bit more practical application. Okay. The third lie is I shouldn't have to ask for these. I shouldn't have to ask other people for my ideal conditions. They should already know.
They should just know them.
They should just know.
This one goes out to all you melancholics out there.
All those people with heavy manuals.
Well, we got that melancholic part of us has very high ideals, and there can be a presumption that because we know we have high ideals, that everybody else is very aware of those ideals, and so it's just like if they're not demonstrating awareness, well, that means that they're choosing to be dismissive of these things, and it's just like, let's not go down that path. So. Yeah.
I think also so often we're like, they should already know, and we don't even know it ourselves, like this is why we have these little lessons, this little mini course, like, so you know what your ideal conditions are.
Yeah. This is one of the greatest gifts in Academy Plus. It's giving a language to describe these interior desires and ideal conditions and contributions. It gives a very language to be able to be conscious of it, so that you might consciously choose it, but also you can communicate it to other people. So we kind of have an intuition of the things that we want and the things that we need and how to get the best out of us. But until we can really verbalize that, we can't consciously shape our lives and our environments to really allow those things to flourish, nor can we pass like our user's guide over to people and be like, hey, this is how you get the best out of Matt Engel. This is how you get the best out of Aaron Engel. This is how you really cooperate with the unique design that God has given to Matt Engel or Aaron Engel or insert name.
Yeah. I also think about how this thought feels, right? And what you would do from this thought. So like, I shouldn't have to ask for this. Like, I feel like annoyed. And then imagine going and asking for it when you feel annoyed. How do you think that's going to be received? Right? Because people are like, well, why the heck are you judging me? Like I'm supposed to be a mind reader or something?
Yeah, why are you nagging me all of a sudden?
Right.
I didn't know.
I mean, just consider where this thought leads and the amount of charity or lack of charity that's involved there. Like, do you know their ideal conditions? No, probably not. Have you asked that? So ask yourself a lot of these, like, kind of, and I know this is a little harsh, but sometimes we gotta point that finger back on us, right? If we are judging somebody, if we're saying like they should already know this, like, do you even know theirs? Ask yourself that question.
Yes. Yeah.
And
presumption takes you out of curiosity.
Yes.
That's the thing. Presumption takes you out of curiosity for both the other person and yourself.
Yes.
Right? And if you're not in that curious place, you're not going to learn.
Yeah.
So choose curiosity.
Yeah. I mean, another thought I think you could think instead of this could be something like maybe I'll ask them what their ideal conditions are. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a completely different way. But can you imagine even just the trajectory of that? Maybe I'll ask them. Mm-hmm. Now you're in that mode of curiosity, and then you can ask them and invite them in, and then they'll probably get curious about yours, and you can share them with one another, and probably have a way more productive conversation from that place.
Yeah.
So a very different, but we just did a little mindset shift there. Another thing I want to say, when you do join our academy, because we do have a 7-day free trial.
Yeah.
Wait, did I say that right?
7-day free trial.
Okay, I said it the right way.
See, Academy Plus.
When you join us and you look at your list of your ideal conditions based off of your primary temperament, and also your secondary temperament, you can do both of them. I think what would be really helpful is to walk through them and figure out which ones are inside of your control and which ones are outside of your control.
Ooh, that's meta, babe.
It's really meta. And I would love to.
That's an advanced skill.
I would actually love to do a workshop on that. Post you going through the little mini course.
It's really helpful.
But I want to give you guys a couple examples, because on those lists, there are things that are directly inside of your locus of control, your control. And then there are things that are like kind of contingent on other people changing or environments changing. And we could argue that that is also in your control. You could probably change a lot of your environments. But I think it's really powerful to do that because it changes the strategy. So if it's something that's outside of your control, let's just say, one of my ideal conditions is like for people to give me the benefit of the doubt all the time. I don't know, like maybe that's one of my ideal conditions. But it's outside of your locus of control because you can't control other people and you can't control how they're acting. And so the strategy for that would be something like to accept the fact that you can't change other people, A, and then B, to actually make a request. You could make a request of them. Like, hey, would you, before I share this thing with you, would you be able to give me the benefit of the doubt and just... Right. I'm not saying that, but you also have to be detached from the outcome because they have to be able to say no.
Got it.
Right. Okay. So that's for the things that are outside of your locus of control: acceptance, requesting, and then detachment from the outcome. And these are big kid pants, by the way. This is like adulting 101. If it's something that's inside of your locus of control, it's like quiet time. Okay. Now, I'm not saying like your house is going to be quiet 24/7. If you have a lot of kids, it's probably not realistic. But you could incorporate more quiet time. You could actually schedule in more quiet time throughout your week. I remember talking to a melancholic coach of ours, and he was like, this is definitely an ideal condition of mine, quiet time. And then one day I just realized, I can create this. I can request this of my wife. Hey, can I go and leave for a couple hours? I have a couple of things I need to do for work, and I'm going to swing by the chapel or something like that. And he's like, I realized I could just do it. I could just like create it on my own. I didn't have to wait for it to happen. Or, you know, quietly resent my family for being loud. You know, I could leave the house and go find quiet. It's just incredibly empowering when you realize, oh, there's actually a couple of things on this list that I could actually increase in my life. I could introduce or create more of in my life.
Yeah. And then you're going to be a better person for it. Because again, in those ideal conditions, it has a way of just bringing you into just being, right? At a place of rest, right? Where you're both kind of passively just being who you are and who God created you to be. But also there's kind of this outward movement that's there where you kind of like the word of God that is unique to you starts to overflow in this missional contributions sort of way. And so I find that when I have some of those ideal conditions, like say even going for a jog, right?
Yep.
Love getting that, you know, that endorphins going and just my achiever of doing, you know, working out, and I enjoy fitness. But that's something where it's just easier for me to settle down and to work after that, or even just be present to Avila after that versus, you know, when I don't have that quiet time. And it's like quiet time, or either I've got headphones on, I'm learning something new, which is another ideal condition for me, or sometimes headphones are out and I just have that thinking time that's there.
Yep. Yeah, I'm thinking in the workplace too, we have a couple people on our team who their ideal conditions, I think you're one of them, is just very clear, like goals. Very clear, like
clean scope. We got to know what winning looks like.
Yes.
That's how we prioritize our time. That's how we get our focus. Abby needs that, definitely.
Yeah. And so just to know that going into like a meeting, let's start off with what does winning look like? What is the goal?
Yeah.
How do we know? And then how do we know if we're getting close to it? And I think that's actually incredible. I think it's really helpful. It's not like a natural ideal condition for me, but it's so helpful. And so we all benefit from it.
Yeah.
But knowing that from your team is equally as helpful, I think.
Yeah.
I just said helpful like 22 times.
That's very helpful.
In the last minute.
Good. Well, that wraps it up here, folks, right? We done?
Yes.
Let's do it. Okay, so we went through all of our 3 pillars, actually. So yay, celebration.
Yay.
Okay. So deepen into your understanding and your naming and claiming and taming and aiming of your 3 pillars. That's what our academy is all about. It's identifying who am I, that unique design, and what's my purpose? What's my unique mission that's here? And then all the stuff that gets in the way is what we call the unique battle, right? And we're all in our unique battle. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to focus on that. Focus on those contributions. That's, you hear Matthew Kelly talking about the best version of yourself all the time, like that. What I love about unique design exploration is it really gives a beautiful ideal that's achievable to you, that's particular to you, that is your great gift to the world. And then it's just like, okay, what are the things that are getting in the way of me living in this contribution and giving this contribution to other people in my particular mission field here as well? That's where we have the deep, meaningful experiences in our lives, and we feel very just alive, fully alive. That's there, and it draws you into a deeper relationship with our Lord in the process.
Right. And we do it with God the whole time, you know, which is very different from personal development world out there.
Yeah, we do it. And folks, you don't have to, but it won't lead to the peace without it, right? Because it's not who we are, right? It's not what we're ultimately created for, that face-to-face, beautiful beatific vision. That's what's there. But what I find is that as we're living out this unique word, this is the unique word of the Spirit working through our spirit that cries out, Abba, Father. It's a word that when we get in touch with it, folks, it actually it has a divine origin, like our catechism talks about, and it starts to shape the way that we live our lives. And as it shapes the way that we live our lives, and it shapes the way that we act and we behave and we think, we're actually being conformed into that right relationship with the Father. We're becoming those sons and daughters of God that we talk about, and we very flippantly be like, I'm a beloved son and daughter of God. But we never really get down to the particular way that applies to you. So we know on a very universal, yes, we're beloved sons and daughters of God, but everyone that's a parent knows that your kids are all different and you love them in different ways and they love you in different ways. What is the unique way that you are called to enter into this relationship with the Father and the body of Christ? That's what we're helping you to discover in the Academy. So we hope to see you in there.
And you get to do it with a lot of cool people. So great community. All right. See you guys in there. Bye.
Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking with us in the Catholic Coaching Podcast. If you like what you heard,
Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again.